Hi, welcome back to the show, everybody. I did this kind of impromptu. Wasn't going to go live because tomorrow's the holiday, but there was a couple things that kind of like caught my attention today that I think I just wanted to discuss real quick. And then, wish everybody a happy holiday if you are in the U.S. And you do celebrate. Definitely want to, show some support and show some love and special thanks to everyone who supports the show, and whether it be monetarily, sharing clips. We have some great episodes that are being filmed over the next couple weeks. So we'll be taking this week off. Or I'll be taking this week off, I should say. And next week, the podcast will kick back up. I just released part 2 of the UAPPD episode. And then there'll be a lull this week. And then next week, got something really cool for you. So with that being said, I recorded this video. So there's 2 videos I want to play and that I want to talk about because age of disclosure, obviously, I put my review out for it. Dan Farah, I think, did a great job. He made a really, really serious film involving UAP and the intelligence community and legacy UFO programs and public UFO programs, like OSAP, even though they didn't really specifically talk about OSAP. They did talk about ATIP, which it's if you're not going to try to get too caught up in the details, I think that's what is happening right now. On the if you're heavily involved with the UFO community and you're tapped into it and you have your pulse on what the general consensus is, it's kind of weird. I've never seen a film like this divide like it has. Now, I'm not saying it was perfect, nor am I saying it's the end all be all. However, it's definitely sparked interest. I mean, it is number 1. Last time I checked, it was number 1 on Amazon. I don't know what the ratings are. They don't really release those numbers when it's straight to streaming. So we may never know how many people actually, or households actually rented it. I'd be interested to definitely see the figures and compare it to other films like The Phenomenon and Unacknowledged. With their releases, I think that would be interesting to see how many people are paying attention now that maybe weren't back then, or are just getting into it now because congressional hearings and all that. Say what you want, but I mean, the topic's progressed. That's a good thing. The topic has progressed. I don't think anyone could argue that the topic has not become less stigmatized. I think there's more people with adding opinions. There's more streamers, the internet, there's more podcasters, there's more opinions. And with the attracted destigmatization that's happened post, let's say, 2004, like 2001 to 2017, and then 2017 and onward. 2017 onward, much different story. The New York Times article, as flawed as I think it is, it has changed the subject. There's no doubt about it. That the domino that tipped over was a domino that was much needed. And I think a lot of the division is happening now because we're so far past, like, and this sounds selfish when I even think it. So I can't imagine how it sounds to someone who might be on the outside looking in. But it's kind of like we're over the stories. And I'm a podcaster. I interview people. I facilitate stories. So I'm not specifically tired of the stories, but it seems that a lot of people, like, they're ready for the next level, whatever that is, whether it's physical evidence, whether it's carting out a body or, biologics and then having them, like, whatever the next step is, that's all they want. That they're tired of the, I'd have to speak about that in a skiff mentality. And fair enough. Fair enough. However, I'm a story guy. I like to hear stories. I give people benefit of the doubt. I understand that disclosure is complicated, and we're dealing with some of the most existential topics there are. To think the process would be anything but slow would be naive, unless something shows up tomorrow above the White House, and even then we might not hear about it, right? They've done that before, technically 2 weekends in a row. And then actually Age of Disclosure brought up this case about the Bush residents and how there was a UAP caught on radar, caught on multiple sensory systems that was over the residents of the George Bush and his cabin, or not cabin, maybe it wasn't cabin, but his residence in Texas. And jets were scrambled, and when asked about it, they were couldn't say anything. We signed NDAs. So they for lack of a better term, they've tried to see the president. Maybe they have, and some of the lore people would know. Meetings at Holloman Air Force Base, and the Eisenhower Palm Springs disappearance, where he was at the dentist, but journalists were saying he was dead. And the deeper you are down the rabbit hole, the more stories the more the more you start connecting, like JFK to UFOs somehow. That's how I measure. That's how I measure people. How far do you think JFK had anything to do with UFOs? And that's how I judge where they are in the topic. So anyway, there's a video I want to play. This is Chris Mellon. He put this out in response to Age of Disclosure. By the way, not a lot of people aren't happy. A lot of people in the film, that like Salas, Robert Salas, I know Bob Jacobs, Maria Woods. Some of the witnesses are a little upset that they got, okay. Again, I'm not saying anything bad here, but Bob Salas got 34 seconds of screen time. What the fuck? What the fuck? Like, that's crazy. 34 seconds. I don't know. That's crazy. That's crazy to me. Anyway, so this is Chris Mellon speaking to Congress, it sounds like.
In the new UAP documentary, Age of Disclosure, we learned that the Air Force had a secret program to track UAP in the vicinity of Area 51 and other sensitive military facilities in the 1990s. This report comes from none other than General James Clapper, former director of U.S. Air Force Intelligence and former director of National Intelligence.
Before we get into this further, like I said, I do want to say happy holidays to everybody. And without this community, I know like people give it a bad rap sometimes, like, they always want to see the bad and everything. But I find that this community, love it or hate it or love it, skeptical debunker or diehard believer, right? I am grateful this year, and for all years, I am grateful that there's a community where I can come and I can exchange ideas with people that are like-minded, right? That don't, like, for instance, I think a lot of us in the UFO field, like during the holidays especially, right? It's kind of weird because like if you're known in the family as like the UFO guy, like you're always going to be known as the UFO guy. And there's something about that it's almost like it's for me, it's a badge of honor, but for some reason for some people it's a scarlet letter. And just remember that I think history will favor the people that allowed for the thinking that something that humans aren't the top of the food chain, right? It's not to say that, you know, we are less than. I don't like that route when like they compare humanity as like an anthill to an alien species as an alien species, and we're just the anthill. I think that is a crude analogy, and I think it really like it does a disservice to humanity, because we've done amazing things, and the fact that we're here, you know, we've made a lot of mistakes too, but I think history will look kindly on those who dared to ask the questions. So, you know, we're all in it together at the end of the day. How do I play it now?
Does that secret Air Force UAP program continue to this day? Where's the data? What did the Air Force learn? Moreover, why is it that when Congress asked the services for UAP information in their possession in the 2020 Intelligence Authorization Bill, the Air Force denied having any pertinent information other than a handful of very recent innocuous reports submitted after DoD guidance was finally issued in 2020, requiring all military components to report UAP sightings? In my view, the Air Force brass treat Congress with contempt, even if not in a strictly illegal manner. I also believe that the secret Air Force UAP program described by General Clapper, or another like it, remains quietly active behind the scenes. I say this because it would explain a number of things. For example, why is it that Air Force F-22s, despite having greatly superior sensors, did not report UAP operating in DoD training areas off the East Coast when Navy F-18s were routinely detecting and reporting UAP on the same ranges? Why is it the USS Princeton radar data from the Nimitz case disappeared after US Air Force officers visited the ship? In fact, there are many similar cases where Navy data was removed by US Air Force personnel. Similarly, why are the Nimitz deck logs missing for precisely the period of Princeton UAP tracking back in 2004? Why is it the Air Force never reports UAP detected by its strategic radar systems? These solid-state phased array radars are believed to be the most powerful emitters on the planet. Yet despite their massive range and constant coverage, even when UAP are detected operating for days directly in front of these powerful emitters, the Air Force fails to issue any UAP reports. Why is it that none of the innumerable NORAD UAP intercept cases from recent decades were submitted with the 2021 UAP report to Congress, including the famous UAP case over the Bush Ranch in Texas, where F-16 pilots were made to sign NDAs by the Air Force?
Oh, maybe that's where I heard it.
As recently as last year, the Air Force was still refusing to provide NORAD UAP intercept data to DoD's All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office in Congress. Why are there no reports of UAP in space despite a massive U.S. Air Force space surveillance capability? Why is it that the Air Force seized Navy sonar data obtained after an encounter by a U.S. nuclear submarine with an underwater UAP? In sum, I believe the Air Force is treating Congress contemptuously when it comes to dodging formal congressional requests for Air Force UAP data. It seems likely the Air Force has either carefully marshaled all of its UAP data into an obscure, highly secret, quote, waived special access program that even the chair and ranking members of the intelligence committees are not cleared for, or that the Air Force is using Atomic Energy Act or other authorities to justify concealing this UAP information. For example, the Air Force might claim they are merely the executive agent for CIA or the National Nuclear Security Agency, and that reporting of this data is therefore not their responsibility. Their counterpart agency might claim the reverse, leaving Congress uninformed as the, quote, deep state exploits a fissure in the current congressional military and intelligence reporting framework.
So that is that is that. So I think now Chris Mellon is someone that, I think, I have a lot of respect for Chris Mellon. I do. I think, I mean, it's tough to kind of say like this, but a man with his wealth and means to be invested in the topic as such. I mean, you could say he's making money off. I don't know if he is. I don't think he is. He seems genuine enough to me. I mean, could it be that he's still in the pocket of the government? Probably, right? To some degree, probably. Same with the other guys. Honestly, it's not a big deal. Not a big. I mean, you just got to know that. As long as you know it and you can work within the confines of the truth, then I think it's fine. I think we've always wanted more people involved. So when it actually starts to happen, I don't think we can start slamming the door, right? And that's where I get caught up. For years and years and years, we've begged the government to get involved. We've begged people with credentials to get involved. And now that they have, we call them grifters or gatekeepers. And listen, some of them are. Fair enough. I just think that we need to be a little bit more non-combative. Call out the bullshit, of course. Of course. I just think, watching the reception to Age of Disclosure, it's got me worried, honestly. Honestly, it's got me worried. But speaking of disclosure, I kept seeing a clip get shared. I don't know who this gentleman is, Walter Kirn. But he showed up on Megyn Kelly, and Megyn Kelly's like, her and Candace Owens are arguably, Candace and Tucker are arguably probably the biggest platforms out there right now. Other than Rogan and that. So this is where advancement happens, right? Getting those people talking about it. So I found this to be very interesting. And he talks about Grusch and knowing him. And so Walter, if let me forgive me, I'm going to share the video first and get that going, and then I'll stop it and I'll go over who he is. Let me share that real quick. Oh man, this is why I needed a young Jamie. Young Jamie, pull it up. Oh, there it is. Thank you, young Jamie. I'm just kidding. Thank you, Tyler. By the way, before I start this, I keep hearing foots. I know this sounds like so cliche, but I live on the first floor in my main house. The studio is above my garage. I've lived on the first floor for the past couple years too. Because we just moved here like about a year ago. But before that, I was at another place and I was on the first floor. So I kind of got used to the footsteps like above me. Anyone who lives on the first floor in like a double family, multiple family house, you'll know this sound, like people walking above you. I mean, God forbid, if you live in a house with a second floor, you'll know this. So I live in the first floor in the main house and have for a while. And even before that, when I was in Somerville at the original studio and house, I was in the basement. So I've grown so accustomed to like hearing people walk above me. There's no one above me in the studio. And I realize now, since the day that I bought this place, I've been hearing footsteps above me in the studio. There's no one above me. I got so used to it that it just sounded normal. I swear to God, I swear on anything, I'm not just making this up to sound like, oh, because the paranormal is kind of like my line in the sand. But I think it's just an animal, of course. But I can now recall multiple times where I heard like someone walking across the and I'll bring the camera up there I'll show you. There's nothing above me. There's a little attic, but it's not like it's got a finished floor or anything like that. It's like one of those ones you can push up through, and then it's like beamed out, and it's only like 2 feet tall or 3 feet tall. So, but I've heard fucking footsteps up there, man. I've been freaking out lately because I'm like, dude, I spend way too much time in here. I don't need this. So if there is something with me, like, I want this to be on air too. I am saying, if there is anything here, we can happily coexist. Happily. I will not bother you. Just please don't scare the shit out of me.
Is it just my feed, or is this coming up in your social media
shit.
and like your life more these days?
I can't hear any.
Okay, no, it's just me. Okay. But I'm in news and I talked to
can't
Walter,
hear
so that's
anything.
what's happening. Well, my
you
old
guys
pal
hear
Brett
this
Baer
video?
over on Fox News just did
I
this
can't.
interview. Okay. Yes, we like Brett. And he interviewed like the god of UAPs.
Can you guys hear
That's what
this
they call
video?
him now.
What used to be called UFOs.
Yes.
They
Well,
got
let
an
me know.
upgrade.
Former
Yeah.
Air Force guy. Just listen to this soundbite. Watch.
I don't like to characterize necessarily where they came from. They're definitely some kind of non-human sentience, but it is true, believe it or not, we've recovered the vehicles, and we actually have physical proof. And I was actually partially cleared into some of those activities. It was beyond oral testimony provided to me. I actually had partial access to the data and actually read the intelligence reports resulting from those programs. And
With your own eyes,
Correct.
you saw it.
Yes.
All right. Now that's extraordinary because my understanding is this is not some kook. This is not some crackpot. This is former Air Force. And he's saying he actually saw the vehicles and some sort of non-sentient being.
No, sentient beings.
Sentient being.
Non-sentient
Come on,
beings are
Megyn.
Jasmine Crockett. Sentient beings have awareness and thought.
Oh my God.
But this is something you've been reporting on, you've been paying
Yo.
attention to.
So in the spirit of Charlie Kirk, I decided I would do nothing but tell the truth when I came out here tonight. I was invited to be on his show a couple of months before he died, and I declined. That should give everybody pause. Take every opportunity you have with good people, because they might not be around forever. Dave Grusch is a friend of mine, and he's a source, and I've known him for 3 years. I was texting him in the green room. I said, what can I tell Megyn's audience?
A source?
He said, the problem with the aliens is that we care a lot about them, but they don't care a lot about us. In other words,
I find it hard to
we're
believe he said aliens.
still exploring this universe. The gorilla was only discovered in the middle of the 19th century. It was a mythical being that they finally discovered in the jungle. They found bodies and so on. I'm convinced, and I hate to tell you this, that Dave is telling the truth, and that against great pressure and great mockery, he's trying to describe our actual world to us. It's a world in which we have not made all the discoveries yet. Now, he often compares them to mountain lions. He says, do you believe in mountain lions? Everybody would say yes, right? How many of you have actually seen one?
I have seen one.
You've seen one?
In Montana.
What?
Okay, well,
Yep. Ugly.
I
So unattractive.
am convinced that this isn't a psyop, that this isn't what conspiracy theorists call Project Blue Beam, an attempt to dazzle us all with a false god that will bring us all under, slavery of some sort of world government. I think that very rarely, but somewhat commonly over the years, going back through human history, we have been visited by beings of other types. It's a big universe, one we barely understand. We're very young. We're going to learn about, I can promise you this, we're going to learn more about this. And in the same interview, he tells you that Donald Trump knows a lot about it. That's my information too. If you know anything about Donald Trump, he will not avoid bragging about what he knows before he... So I expect him to be the president who tells us what we haven't heard.
So can you just outline it for us more clearly? What exactly is he telling you they've seen?
They've recovered craft that have crashed. Some of those craft have fought each other. In other words, people say, how could they crash? They come across the universe. Well, we're not so sure they come all that far, frankly. We're not so sure they don't have places nearby to come visit. They're a little bit like gardeners from the descriptions of the people I've had as sources. They check on the garden every once in a while, but they have their own business. They have their own family fights. They have their own voyages. Now, what he's talking about are actual bodies on the ground. I imagine there's going to be a day where you're going to sit down in front of your television and people who you trust, scientists, politicians, ones who don't necessarily agree with each other on everything, but do agree on something like the truth, will bring forward the evidence. You will be convinced. It will not rock your world if you're a religious person. You can handle it. If you've read the Bible, there are all sorts of creatures in there who aren't explained. If you believe that these are a demonic presence, I don't think they are any more than certain animals are. But, you know, there was a time when we thought we were alone in the universe almost as a planet, that the sun revolved around us and so on. But we survived the revelation that it was the other way around. We'll survive this. It'll be interesting. Kids will be more interested in science. I think our universe will light up for us again.
Wow.
They've kept it to themselves for, I think, obvious reasons. And I spoke to someone just recently. I said, how should they first disclose this? And he said, they should take the craft that they've reverse engineered that have capacities that you and I don't know about and fly them over Phoenix.
They've done that.
And in fact, that happened because the Phoenix Lights is one of the great UFO scares of all time, if you know about it.
I was just talking to Dr. Katai.
So I predict that's going to happen, and I don't think it's going to be all that long. And I think after all the movies and all the, pop culture, we're not going to be all that shocked by it. I think we'll integrate it, and it's not going to destroy our civilization to find out.
I have an idea for them to integrate into the United States in a way and the world, the earth, that's going to make everybody really happy. It's going to make things non-controversial. People are going to be in favor of their addition to our way of life. They just have to start by grabbing one of us. I nominate Elizabeth Warren. Just you take her. She's gone.
I'm in mass. So.
She probably was part of that Hopi tribe at your high school. And we can all get behind that idea. Another unifier.
The problem with if Trump announces it, the liberals won't believe him. I mean,
I've said that too.
Trump could lay out absolute proof of this thing, and half of the people wouldn't believe it. Just like, they went and grabbed Tylenol the minute it seemed like he was against it.
Yeah, my friend just lost her ring. She went to replace it. She realized it was a gold ring. The price of it has gone up like 25% since she bought the ring a year ago. That's because.
Okay. So that's the end of that then. I think what he says is mainly on point. I think he said Grusch said the aliens. I've not heard him once in any interview, in any claim that it was anything specific. So unless he privately says that, I just I feel like that would have come out. There is some backlash. There is another side. Someone that was pretty big in the UFO community, the research community and the podcasting community. You'll know his X account by Tiny Klaus. Interestingly enough, I looked. I went to see if I could message Gary Nolan, and I opened his page up on X, and turns out I'm blocked. I don't know why. I mean, it could be something I said, but I don't know. Klaus is, and the reason I bring that up in the first place is not to be like, oh, poor me, I'm blocked by Gary Nolan. But I respect Gary. I've only ever said positive things about him, so I just don't understand why. It is what it is. One day, if I ever see him in person, I'll bring it up to him and I'll say, hey, maybe we could talk this out. Or if by chance he sees this on X or something, just know that I really do. We need. It's not even that we deserve, but we need people like Gary in the field. People have said that he's, there's these like limited hangouts on Signal and other, platforms, Discord or whatever it is. I don't know, but I mean, that's always happening. One recent one that I did see, and like I said, was Klaus saying that he was essentially like, there's just like a weird story, and I'm not sure what to think about it. I mean, here's some of the like stuff that he was saying is like this. So Klaus is saying, and Klaus is known as a pretty respectable person. So like when he's saying this, I'm a little taken aback by it. Because he's going like against the Grusch narrative, against the Gary Nolans of the world, and the whole limited hangout of that. If that is a thing, I don't know. But yeah, I really don't understand what's happening with it. But there is a dark side to ufology, and like the factionalization of the topic. And I've seen this before, like the movie community, even just in the subset of the comic book movie industry. Like that's a thing. Like there was factions between DC, like the Snyder, if anyone knows Zack Snyder and the story that happened with him in Justice League, and how after his daughter died, Warner Brothers kind of like used that as an excuse to do like what they wanted was something more like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, something that was bright, it was colorful, it was quippy, and it made money. And Snyder very much was dark. If anyone's ever watched 300 or if any of Zach's films, there's a lot of Watchmen. He got the job because of Watchmen, but there was factions even in that community. Like so, DC, like as a brand, there was factions in that. Most people know the factions of like the Star Wars community. So for me, that's what it feels like. It's just a little bit more like real life, like I really don't want to go too far into it. I do want to bring it up because Klaus is saying that like it's all a psyop, and a lot of people have been saying that lately. Like it's all a psyop, like this whole thing. Not the UFOs themselves, not that they exist, but the controlled disclosure that's happened since 2017. I think a lot of people are talking about this because Age of Disclosure has reignited some sort of spark up everyone's ass, apparently. Skeptics and believers and all. They're just, fully at each other's throats right now. And I mean, it is what it is. I didn't expect it to be this way, but it is this way. And it concerns me. So I think we need to step back. I think a lot of people need to step back and take a break, disconnect. Like go throw axes at a tree in the woods. Go do whatever you do. Take some of this time during the holiday season if you live in the U.S. or the holiday season that we're about to approach in December, and reflect and we only have a finite amount of time on this earth that we are aware of. So do we really want to spend it like yelling at each other on X? I don't know, guys. But what this guy is saying, what this Walter guy is saying on Megyn Kelly, I like to see the topic spreading to those kinds of shows. As I said before, Megyn Kelly, the Candace Owens, whether you hate them or love them, they have the biggest reach right now. So, those shows talking about this and, talking about Trump and talking about how they can see him being that president. I talked about this last episode, that last live show, that he has, the stage kind of is set right now. And there's whispers of a presidential, investigation, advisory committee or whatever it is to investigate UAPs. And who knows, maybe Trump will come out to the podium and say, we're not alone. He will not say my fellow Americans. It's not going to start like that, like Nick Pope would have you believe, in every documentary. It's going to be more like Someone needs to do this with AI. They need- Just thinking of it's making me fucking laugh. But like a Trump disclosure scenario where he's just like unfiltered and Trump, like in his voice. I can't imitate him, but a lot of people can. But picture like disclosure in Trump's voice, like that's the disclosure, right? I think anytime like anyone's ever mentioned disclosure being like, the president stepping up to the podium, they think of like JFK stepping up to the podium, or Ronald Reagan, right? These people who have just pure grace when they speak. Even Barack Obama, everyone knows that guy was slick. He was slick when he got to the podium. So you could see that, my fellow Americans, that addressing the nation at its core, right? Trump doesn't do that. He just walks out like he owns the fucking place and just starts talking. No preamble, no intro, right into the middle of the conversation, and and we're off and running. So I will pay $20 if someone makes me that clip and sends it to me privately, so I can share that, because I do not know how to use AI like that. But seriously, I wanted to make this a quick show. Let me know what you guys think. Do you think David Grusch is the real deal? I think he's the real deal. I think a lot of people are, they're torn. I think there's been a lot of disinformation. One thing I will agree with Age of Disclosure is that there is some sort of operation that has infiltrated, whether it's this topic or just like media in general, and they're just catching it. There is a campaign to actively kind of like try to put the lid back on this as much as they can, right? Whether it's, leaking PTSD files, or discrediting people or silencing them. I'm a firm believer that is actively happening, and that there is active recovery programs, crash retrieval programs that are operating without oversight. They have their own fundraising mechanisms. They answer to no one but themselves, and they are exploiting that technology. I can't give you all the details because I don't know all the details, but I've seen enough evidence to suggest that, like, call it MJ12, call it the deep state. There is something behind the scenes that they're not the billionaires you hear about, right? They're the ones who control the billionaires you hear about. Think on that. Think on that. I've said it for a long time. The same people that control the Epsteins of the world, right? And how that won't come out, right? The people that control the Diddies and the Epsteins, you don't think those are the same people that are actively covering up free energy, right? Same people that would do those the most heinous things. And I don't want to get demonetized or deplatformed, so I'm not going to say the words, but you know what I mean. Heinous crimes on that island. Heinous shit. And you don't think the people that are the ones that are getting that information from those people, the ones who are, giving them the resources to blackmail the highest politicians and monarchs and influential people in every industry. If you don't think that there is a dark side that we don't know about, then you are naive. And evil exists. And that island is proof of it. So, happy Thanksgiving, everyone. If you do celebrate, happy holidays. Super, super thankful for you guys. Super thankful for the people that listen and make the show possible and allow me to rent the studio and do all this. We're definitely expanding in capabilities. we are going to be starting to fly people in. I have a big roster that we're working on right now, talking to guys like Patrick Jackson, the Sphere Network, down to Paul Hynek, Danny Sheehan. The list is going to go on and on and on. But I'm going to bring them into the studio just like I did with Rizwan Verk, Avi Loeb, even though that episode didn't air. Like the Contact in the Desert episodes. I fell in love with the in person. I fell in love with it. I really like that. And I don't want to do virtual episodes anymore. I want to feel the energy in the room, right? I have the means to do it. And I want to do this show, even if I break even. I don't want money. I have my day job. I'm fine. I am good. So I'm here for the truth and the truth only. Truly. Answers. Everyone, I'm going to take a few days off. So enjoy your time with your family. Hold them close. Tell them you love them. Love you guys. See you soon.